Good job today, man. It's one at a time, and we'll get the job done. Y'all know what to say. On three. 1, 2, 3.
And the home of the Jets.
What is going on, everybody? Mr. Jet Central, the NFL draft has come and gone. We have a lot to talk about. Did you get any sleep, man? You had a really busy weekend.
Yeah, dude, bro. So that first night, like after night one, I never sleep. I'm just like so juiced, like off of everything. I'm watching, like trying to consume content. And it was funny, bro, because like, so, you know, we all streamed and everyone's streaming on night one. And you get off and you're just looking at the computer screen, you're looking at your phone, you're looking at, you know, whatever, the TV. The second you get done streaming, it's just like you got like another 3 hours of just screen time, just like looking at interviews and like available prospects in round two. So night one and night two, I think I went to bed at 3 a.m. night one, and then night two, it was like 3:45. I just could not go to sleep, dude. And so day three, you could even tell, like in that first reaction video that I posted, I'm like my energy just like was not there. I was just like, I was shot. But no, man, I'm good. I'm pumped with the class, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts on them too.
No, I had a blast. I joined you on night two. It was a lot of fun just seeing the mindset as the picks play out, what the opportunities were, who we wanted, would we trade up, would we trade back, what was available. So it was really interesting, and I walked away excited, man. I mean, I was curious going in. I walked away excited. Not being a fanboy, just you're kind of learning about this regime now. You kind of had an idea what Anglin's about. Now you really know. So we'll go through the whole process. You know, starting at round one where we talked about Membou Warren. Then I had a personal fear that I thought Membou was going to be gone based on everybody wanted tackles. But then he was available, dude. And the Jets had a choice to make, and they went with him over Warren. And I think it was a great pick. I think it solidifies the offensive line. Now you have your anchor of your team to protect Justin Fields and establish a running game. Your thoughts on Membou?
Yeah, actually, real quick before we dive into that, isn't it kind of funny how you think back to those mock drafts that were coming out, you know, in the month of like January and February, with like once we started seeing like Ashton Genty to the Raiders, it was kind of like the same 10, like every mock, you know, Cam Ward 1, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter 2, and then the Giants would get the you know, the third or you know, like the second best player available, whoever fell to them. And then the week of the draft comes out, and it's like we're seeing all these like new reports. Jahdae Barron linked to the Jets, Calvin Banks all of a sudden being linked to the Raiders at 6.
Jalen Walker.
Yeah, Jalen Walker's another one. You know, we had I think multiple reports suggesting that a huge run on edge rushers were going to come like early, like top 10, top 12. We were going to see a lot of guys go. And then the draft plays out, and there's a trade in the top 10. But it's still the same pretty much consensus. Like Hunter still was the second pick. Mason Graham was still the 5th pick. Just different teams swapped, which I thought was pretty interesting. But no, dude, like you said, bro, we walked away with Membou. I'm pumped with the pick. That realistically speaking, he was my number one choice. We've talked obviously about it a lot. So, you know, hopefully it's not annoying to people in the chat at this point. But, you know, 2025 is one thing, protecting Justin Fields, helping out the running game. But looking ahead until into 2026 is really, really important, right? We know Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji aren't making these picks in like a vacuum.
Yep.
Like, oh my God, like the Giants almost like we need to win right now. And in 2026, John Simpson is a free agent. AVT is a free agent. Joe Tippmann is in the last year of his rookie deal. Josh Myers is a free agent. Max Mitchell's a free agent. If we didn't address right tackle, like think about how many millions of dollars we'd have to spend to fix starting left guard, starting right guard, starting right tackle, and then 2 backup depth options on the inside and outside. So I love the Membu pick, his age, what he's done in the SEC, how he projects to the next level, the athleticism, the size. Yeah, I love the pick.
Yeah, and we talked about this endlessly for the last couple of months, but it's like, if you don't take Membu in round 2, you'd have to look at right tackle. And the way this draft played out, it would have been slim pickings, man, because the tackles were gone. So you'd have been like, all right, now we start panicking a little bit. You want your offensive line to be the strength of your team. Maybe it won't be. Maybe you got to go to plan B, plan C, plan D. Not ideal. So they get him locked up. Round 2, we were talking about it, texting and stuff. I'm like, it's got to be a tight end or a wide receiver. That's what we kind of hoping for. They get Mason Taylor, which I liked a lot, made a lot of sense. Do you think it was a good value and the right player to take there?
Yeah, so like in the months leading up to the draft, Mason Taylor was someone who like I personally didn't do like a ton of like research and whatnot on. Normally, I like to kind of form my opinions like during the college season, but with Mason Taylor, I just never really got around to it until really like the last week of the NFL draft, especially when people like all the draft insiders and stuff were like mocking the Jets going Mason Taylor in round 2. I know he was like a highly regarded guy, at the time. But when you started seeing like Daniel Jeremiah putting him in round 1, you're like, okay, hold on a second. What's going on with this rise? And then the more I kind of dug into it, the more I watched, the more I liked him. Now, I'm not going to sit here and, use the term before fanboy over Mason Taylor. Is he going to be a top 3, top 5 tight end? I don't know. I don't think he'll maybe ever reach that point, but I do think he's a consistent, reliable, athletic threat with really, really good hands. And I think if your defense game planning against the Jets the night before the draft, it's a lot easier compared to the night after the draft with Mason Taylor and of course Arian Smith, who we're going to talk about. But Mason Taylor, it gives Justin Fields a weapon. It takes some of the pressure off of Garrett Wilson in the passing game. Instantly, he jumps up to tight end 1. And I think he just does a lot of things pretty good.
And that's what you wanted. Like, you need that safety valve over the middle, that, the check down for Justin Fields. A guy takes attention away from Garrett Wilson. Could be a red zone threat. Could be a variety of different things. But it's like a reliable target that you can count on, which you need. And he's young, dude. Like I always said, we assess the guy in college, but you hope he improves as a pro. Like, he's not done yet. He's going to get bigger, stronger, faster. Could become, more dynamic for all we know. So it's like, it's an impact this year, but the goal is also for the years to come as well. So I like the pick there. Were you surprised Colston Loveland went ahead of Tyler Warren?
A little bit. I mean, like if you listen to guys like Daniel Jeremiah and stuff. So I had Warren above Warren 1, Loveland 2, and then a little bit of a drop. Arroyo 3, Mason Taylor 4. That was like my personal ranking. But yeah, I mean, you kind of felt like really throughout the process, like Chicago was going to try to do something like shocking. Yeah. I think if I was Chicago, I would have just went edge rusher to give Dennis. I mean, like the Bears have made so many improvements on the offensive side of the football, which I understand. It's not a bad pick in my opinion, but if I was Chicago, I'm like, you know what? Let me give Dennis Allen a weapon. Let me give him a solid edge rusher to help out Montez Sweat in the C line. So, I wasn't like shocked completely, like, oh my God, the draft is like, turned on its head. But it is funny that the Indianapolis Colts, of course, wound up with Tyler Warren, which was like the pick. And I want to say like 90% of mock drafts from the time the season ended until night 1 of the NFL draft. So it's kind of funny how things work out like that.
So now as you go into round 3, 4, and 5, we both talked about like we wanted round 3 to be a guy that would be an impact player this year. I was hoping wide receiver, defensive tackle, but it's like I had to keep reminding myself, like, while we want players to have an impact this year, it's about the future as well. Like you're not, this isn't all like have to have a guy that, like starter day 1. So I was, again, wide receiver, defensive tackle. They go corner. You saw my reaction. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
Yeah, we were together doing it.
I was just like, because then I'm like, all right, then you had to kind of process like on the fly. And I'm like, okay, press corner, good cover corner. You're moving Brandon Stevens to safety. Maybe you're restructuring your secondary a little bit, trying to evaluate how they use him this year and make all these like chess pieces work out. But I was shocked, dude. I did not see that one coming at all.
Yeah, I mean, I personally still like the pick a lot. I think if you look at it this season, like if this is make or break or Aaron Glenn's getting fired, probably not the best pick. But if you look at it like, hey, Aaron Glenn's going to be here for 5-6 years, then the pick all of a sudden becomes more maybe digestible.
Mhm.
Like Thomas again, I keep referencing these mock drafts because it's good to get a feel on where the league, guys with sources, Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, Mel Kiper, all these different guys, they're not just in their basement, coming up with these mocks and just releasing it. No, they're like talking to GMs or talking to coaches, talking to scouts. And so to constantly see Azareye'h Thomas like bottom round one, Washington Commanders, Baltimore Ravens, Detroit Lions before they signed DJ Reed, Buffalo Bills. And then if it wasn't round one, it was like top of round two. Las Vegas Raiders, Jacksonville Jaguars. And then the combine hits and he has the slow 40. It's like just under a 4.6. And all of a sudden, that workout, that 40 time took Azareye'h Thomas down from a bottom round one, like potentially pick 26, 27 to pick 70. And we managed to scoop him up. And I thought Aaron Glenn actually had a really good answer about, play speed versus workout speed. And that to me just kind of screamed best player available in that third round, which if you're a year one GM, a year one head coach, I have no problems whatsoever going BPA really for every pick. But the Jets didn't do that. But in this specific round, I felt like they did.
Yeah, and like Aaron Glenn had really good answers for it. That's like when they make the selection, I like to watch the press conference and after it to have Muji and Glenn talk about their mindset, what they met with him, they talked with him, they like this, they like that. And then Aaron Glenn talked about it. First of all, he saw last year in Detroit all the injuries. You're one Sauce Gardner injury away from like who's behind him, or if Brandon Steven gets hurt, like he wants depth. Also, it's like these are pieces moving forward too. What if God forbid Sauce doesn't resign here? You have a problem, you got to go. Like you're all pieces, but he's an asset to your team. And that Aaron Glenn is a defensive-minded coach and also a scout, thoroughly evaluate his kids. Like, this kid is a fit for my defense. I can do great things with him. I want him. I'm like, you know what? I'm cool with it. Like, it makes sense. I'm curious to see how they use him, how much he plays this year, and how they work it out, but completely cool with it. Now,
yeah, and it's –
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go. Keep going.
No, what I was going to say was, like, you look at the best teams in football, they have reinforcements. Philadelphia Eagles, they lost Josh Sweat and Milton Williams and all these different guys. Year after year, they're losing these players. And it's like, are they in panic mode? No, because they draft for the future.
100%.
Buffalo Bills, same type of deal, right? They lose like Trey White last year, the safety tandem, and all of a sudden they get better, right? They have replacements. They're younger. They're, ingrained in the Bills culture and the systems and whatnot, and they're totally fine. We can't ask for depth and say we need more depth, and then when the Jets go out and make moves like that, in my opinion, complain like, okay, well, this he's not going to contribute year one, so I think something's got to give there. And at the end of the day, Azareye'h Thomas was, whether we need a corner or not, great value in the third round.
Yeah, and like when we say build through the draft, that means you build literally so 2 years from now he could be a starter, or special teams guy, like an instant impact guy there. And then 2 years from now, he's your starter. So as your free agents leave, or for whatever reason, the guy, whatever happens, plug and play. Next man up. And that's where the Jets have failed in the past, where the second half of their drafts have been a disaster. Busts, guys that can't contribute, not special teams, not good players. Then you have to rely on free agency to cover up all your holes, and it never works like that. So a guy like this kind of fits the mold of building through the draft.
And then when you lose those free agents, say someone gets hurt, you now don't have enough money to replenish that hole, and you don't have a draft pick to replenish that hole. So now it's like, man, you're really starting to scramble. And then throw on top of it, we had a guy in JD who just kind of felt like always lacked that proactive kind of vision, which made it even worse. So, yeah, again, dude, the first 3 picks I really, really liked. We tackled positions of need, because think about it, bro. Like, any NFL franchise, like, take any team you want, right? No matter how many needs, like if you have this many needs, if you're the Jets, right tackle, tight end, D tackle, wide, all these needs, you're not going to just go across the board, no. A+, and just fill every need, and the rebuild's done. One off season, and next year we're going back to this. We're going to the Super Bowl, right? It's going to take some time.
Yep.
So going into the draft, we have this like laundry list, bullet points of needs, right? But coming out of it, it's just like, hey, we don't have to worry about right tackle. We don't have to worry about a starting tight end. We don't have to worry about corner depth anymore. What's going to happen with Malachi Moore at safety? Do we need to go out in free agency, or is that going to be like an option? So again, man, I'm a big fan of this class so far.
Yeah, no, I like it. And then you have, it's like you could see the Jets, they're taking great athletes, team captains, high work ethic, all these guys, and players that like to be coached up, which is going to put a premium on this coaching staff where they say, listen, we got a lot of talent, young talent, raw talent. You got to coach them up. And I like that they're putting pressure on the coaching staff to do that as long as the coaching staff is good. Now, the next pick, I'm not going to lie, it was one that kind of was like, the minute they announced his name, all you heard was mumbling, and man, he had a lot of drops last year. But he's got world-class speed. Like, he has incredible speed, game-breaking talent, but he struggles catching the football, which is not ideal for where you took him. Then you see the John Gruden film where he's like, this is a sleeper of the draft. The kid is working his ass off to get better. He's very self-aware that he has the drop issue, but he's working hard to improve it. The Jets have met with him. They had ties to him. And Aaron Glenn seems like he has a relationship with this kid already where it's like, listen, I told you we're going to draft you. We did draft you. He mentioned working with Jameson Williams and his drops. I know, much better player, different pick, but he has the experience of dealing with a wide receiver that had that problem. Still, the pick seems like, it's like a guy you feel like you can probably get a little bit later on. They kind of reached a little bit for him.
Yeah, I will say I think you're right on that, but it's not like the Jets were the only team to do that. There were multiple teams that, like, quote unquote, reached for a player. Like, how many mocks had Kenneth Grant going to the Dolphins at 13 or Tyler Booker going to the Cowboys at 12? Tyler Williams going to Detroit at the bottom of round one.
I mean, it happened. Like, it happens everywhere. And like, what we think about a player doesn't mean with the Jets got him much higher on their board than everybody else did. So they're staying true to their board, not caring what we think. But to me, it's like, man, I went through so many different, I researched all kinds of people, and they're like, dude, 6th round pick, not sure why they did this, but it's the speed. And the Jets haven't had a guy with speed like this in a very long time that can actually contribute. So it's interesting. But again, this is where I'm going back to a lot of pressure on the coaching staff because they went into the draft knowing they needed help at wide receiver. They wanted that game-breaking guy. They took a little bit of risk on this one. And to me, the way I look at this, you can say if I'm wrong or not, but I feel like this is Aaron Glenn's team where he is very, very involved as a former scout. He does a lot of evaluation. It seemed like this was his guy that he's like, listen, I want for my team. We got it. So this is probably one that everybody's going to watch and see how it plays out. Like, listen, man, you guys swung big in the 4th round. And it kind of backfired on you.
Yeah, let me try to put this like optimistic spin on it, right? Like, if you're arguing in the defense of Arian Smith, if you ask the question, who's the fastest player on the team?
Gibson.
What's the answer? You think Okay. You think Gibson?
No, Smith. I mean, Smith now, I would say, but I think Gibson probably was before that, right?
Yeah. I'm talking like today.
Oh, Smith.
Who would be the team's best deep threat out of the current crop of wide receivers that we have? Like the guy that you think, okay, against any defense, who's the guy that gives us the best chance to just fly down the field?
It's got to be him. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so we checked 2 huge boxes with a 4th round pick. We've had so many 4th round picks not work out throughout the years. So many teams, it's rare to find just, starters in the 4th round, just every single team. Oh yeah, 4th round, that's an automatic starter. It's not the case. You know what I mean? So the fact that we were able to add depth, add a position of need, and at the same time get probably someone who's going to stretch the field and the fastest player on the offense, I think is a win in and of itself. Are the drops a concern? Yeah. Did they reach for him? Maybe. But I'm not going to just rip the Jets draft class apart over a 4th round pick where there are some, positives, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, no, look, I'm not going to rip anybody because all I know is what I researched, but everybody's wrong. Us, general managers, coaches, we've all been wrong. They're right. You can understand why they drafted him. You can see the need, the value he adds, but you also see the concern. But it's also later on in the draft. Like, these are all lottery tickets at this point. Like, you're hoping to get a depth guy, special teams guy, contributor that maybe a year from now is even better player. 2 years from now, he evolves into something. So I'm cool with it. The next pick gets even more interesting because now I'm like, all right, you have your wide receiver, you got a corner, tight end, right tackle. I'm like, maybe defensive tackle. Like, I wanted to go wide receiver again. You remember you guys talking to me about that. I'm like, where do they go next? Then they go Malachi Moore, safety. And I'm like, I was like, all right, again, trust the process because Aaron Glenn's a defensive guy, Steve Wilkes, they know what they're looking for. And, team captain and everything else. But I was trying to address positions at the same time. Like, maybe we can get that run stuff where we really need to be the final piece of the defensive puzzle. But what do you think about this move here?
Yeah, I mean, this to me seems like a real big Aaron Glenn move, right? He's talking about Brian Branch kind of giving him like the
Yeah,
lowdown,
that was
the
big.
behind the scenes details and everything. At the end of the day, dude, I like how Moore is versatile. So he's played free safety, he's played strong safety, he's played slot, first team All SEC this past season. He's experienced, he had, so many games under his belt. If there's a plan for him, if the former, you know, great defensive back and Aaron Glenn is seeing something in him, and he already has that kind of clearance by his former teammate in Brian Branch,
Which is
you
huge.
know, yeah, I mean, that's big time. Like there's so many conversations that happen in the NFL, but you're thinking, okay, when Aaron Glenn was with the Detroit Lions, all that time ago, somehow Malik, Moore is popping up here in conversation. So, again, kind of select a guy like that in round 4. This is not round 1 or round 2, round
Nope.
4. If he could be a contributor, awesome, man. Awesome.
Now, before we go further on, now how do you see them using these pieces in the secondary? Because they have a lot of pieces. They want to be aggressive. Like, how do you see like these rookies being involved? Do you think Tony Adams could be the odd man out now with the safety position? Like, how do you see do you think Stevens is going to move? Like, how would you construct it right now?
Yeah, so I don't think Stevens is going to move. Just my guess, right? I have no idea about it, but I'm going to assume Azarie Thomas is kind of a move for the future, and he's
Okay.
going to be like that first corner up off the bench, right? Gardner gets hurt, boom, Thomas is in. I think Stevens, Gardner, and Michael Carter are just going to be the starting corners. And then, of course, safety, Cisco kind of playing that Kirby Joseph, like center fielder, left, right, deep end safety. And then the kind of the versatile, whatever you want to call him, strong safety, box safety, whatever, the Brian Branch role. I think that position right now is up in the air. It could be maybe Tony Adams. It can maybe be Malachi Moore. Maybe it's someone that is a free agent, like Julian Blackman. I think could be had at a pretty cheap price, and he's played strong safety before in the past. I think that's kind of a wait and see. If I'm honest, right? If I'm the Jets, I'm maybe looking at that position saying, okay, if Moore goes out and wins the job and he's super impressive, he's going to start. But maybe if he's a little behind or the game's a little too fast for him and we don't feel great about Tony Adams, now let's go out into the free agent market and sign someone, bring someone in for, a 1-year deal, give Moore that time on the bench to develop and learn and practice. And then by year 2, you'd have 2 safeties leaving and Cisco and take your pick. We'll just say Julian Blackman.
Yeah.
Both guys leave. Moore fills one of those slots. Maybe you bring one back. So that's kind of my early thought process on it. But I think right now the Jets maybe don't know exactly what it is. There is some talk definitely with Stevens too because of like the athletic profile and stuff. And he's played safety before, but and I was thinking about this late last night. I went back and I actually watched the Aaron Glenn presser after, when he was like recapping the free agent picks, and he was talking about how he maybe feels differently about how the Ravens used him. And he feels good about how he views him in his style of defense. So I think, after saying those words, after signing him to that style of deal, I just have a hard time seeing him moving Stevens over to safety when we haven't heard about it at all.
Yeah, very well said. Like they have a lot of chess pieces, which is interesting. A lot of competition too, which is something that Aaron Glenn talks about. Chris, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it. You're always sharing kind words, man. We definitely appreciate it. Now, so going after this, you have Malachi Moore. After this, the back-to-back Miami guys. At this point, when I get this part of the draft, I'm like, you're looking at special teams, depth pieces, kind of like, I guess, like kind of project players. You're hoping to get something, but you're not really sure what you're getting. What is your expectation once you get to round 5 and below? Is it kind of that same mindset?
I think it really just kind of depends on, where you're at as a team, and then also like how the draft class is viewed. Like this class, I was more so like just draft for need type of thing. And we saw the Jets go linebacker and then edge. Like you said, dude, both guys out of Miami. By the way, a quick little side note, literally every player that the Jets picked in the draft came out of a big time football program. Everyone, bro.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, Missouri, SEC, LSU, SEC, Arian Smith, Georgia, SEC, Azarie Thomas, Florida State. Lost a bunch of games, but still a massive like football powerhouse. 2 kids from Miami. And then Malachi Moore from Bama. So
I love it.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool. And all of them had production against top end competition as well, which I think is important.
So the kids from Miami, you had the linebacker, the edge. Is there one that you like more than the other? Like, do you see them being contributors or special teams guys? Or how do you see them playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's a little tough because they play two different positions, but I think right now, dude, and this is like why depth is so important. Like, we don't have the exact depth chart and whatnot. We don't have any practices with these guys, actually wearing Jets uniforms. But in the event that Sherwood gets hurt, I think Malaga would be the starter.
Yep.
Just because of, or maybe like Jamin Davis, but
yeah,
I don't know. So it's important to kind of fill out these slots. Is that a position that you want to be in that scenario, right? Like there are some positions on this team, wide receiver being one of them, where it's like, hey, if our top guy gets hurt, it's gonna be pretty damn thin. So we need to have these, extra bodies. I mean, you're never gonna have a Garrett Wilson on the bench, but or a player like that on the bench. But I think it's really important to get really solidified depth. But yeah, I'm excited about both guys from Miami. It really seems like Barron was like a Jets favorite. Yeah. And he's interesting because he has good size, good length, can play in a 4-3 or in a 3-4. And he's also played and produced at two different schools.
Yeah, he's a versatile player. Now, this is Muji and Glenn's first draft. What would you say is their draft profile? What's their play like their criteria based on what we saw over the weekend?
Well, based off of what we saw, I'm going to say physical players, blue chip players that love football, that have good production against top competition. That would just be my guess.
Exactly right. Like top competition was important, I think. And like team captains, you had like leadership roles. And it seemed like the Jets, they made it very personal with these players. Like they had the visits, they had the conversation, they talked to them thoroughly. Like they were really invested. Where Aaron Glenn's like, it almost reminded me of Rex Ryan when he talked to the players. Like Aaron Glenn's like, remember what I told you? This is what I talked about. You're coming here. Like, I like that he's like, it's just no stone unturned, very invested, very involved. And when asked about the players, he could break down every reason why he wanted them, from his skill set to his ability to get in college and everything else. I was impressed by that too. Not saying it means anything, but when you're seeing like who's running our organization, you feel like you have legit and like football guys making football decisions where like this coach is involved in every aspect of the draft.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's always good to see kind of like the method to the madness, the reason why. Why did the Jets sign this player? Why did the Jets pick this player? Aaron Glenn has all those answers. It's not like operating or like running the organization just like, I guess we have to sign this guy, or all right, the fan base really wants us to do this, so we'll go make it happen, or this guy's gonna sell sell tickets. No, like with Aaron Glenn, it's just like boom, boom, boom. Here's why that A, B, C, and that's it. Like he'll give you direct answers, which I love. Yeah, man, I'm excited about the class. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's an A+ or an A draft class. But I think before the draft, we had a lot of needs and we had a big issue with depth. Exiting the draft, we crossed out some of those needs, went with BPA in certain cases, and added some depth. So, again, I think if you start comparing it to like teams like the Browns or the Patriots, teams that I felt like really killed it, might not stack up to teams like that, but we're much better football team today than we were a week ago.
Now the interesting thing is always the undrafted free agents, because they happen rapid fire and everybody evaluates, oh, he got $200,000, he got this guaranteed money, everybody's looking. So going into that, I was real interested to see what they did at quarterback, because going into the draft, I was like, maybe they get a McCord later on, they get somebody else, but they didn't do that. So I'm like, well, maybe they're cool with Jordan Travis for now to see what happens, but they did get one. What were your thoughts on him? Because I was like, all right, they did pick one for competition, training camp arm, but can push Jordan Travis too. Like, listen, man, you got to earn your spot here too. So your thoughts?
Yeah, dude, I like Brady Cook, man. I actually thought he did really well at the combine, just throwing on air. But I think kind of he, compared to some of the other quarterbacks there, like the ball was coming out with zip. Mechanically, I thought he looked pretty good. But again, SEC production, rather, good size, good speed at the position. He's tough as hell. He's been beat up and had like a lot of injuries, not to the point of like Tyler Shuck, where he's like, snapped bones, missing seasons, and getting like extra seasons tacked onto his career. But Cook, I know he's dealt with a wrist. I know he's dealt with some lower body stuff. And it's someone who just kind of feels like he wants to be out there. He loves the game. He wants to go out there and compete. He wants to be the guy, wants to be the leader. And like he wants people to look towards him for like he essentially my guess, based off of what we saw at Missouri and watching him in interviews, he seems like he likes being in charge, not in like a weird sort of way, but just like like he enjoys kind of that leadership role, like similar to like a Tom Brady. Not comparing Tom Brady to Brady Cook here, but
I wish.
Yeah, I know, dude. Could you imagine? But no, I liked what he did at Missouri. I thought he was going to get drafted. I did think he was going to be a day 3 pick, not not first or second round or anything crazy. Probably like 6th or 7th round. But it's interesting because it's like the Jets signed him on a undrafted free agent contract. If you just like make believe in your head that we picked Brady Cook in round 7.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make you feel differently about him?
Yep.
Like, does it give you like, whoa, hold on a sec, the Jets really like this guy? You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's just a pick. That's all it is. Yeah, exactly right though. And you still got him too, which is great. Are there any other? You did some great videos, man. Any other undrafted free agents that you like a lot that kind of caught your eye? Like, all right, this could be a guy. Because usually every year, like 2 or 3 stick around that we're like, oh, these guys have a chance. Are there any that kind of stuck out to you? Like, hey, you know what? I really think this has some value here.
Yeah, dude. So I'm actually really, really loving the undrafted class. I have the full list here in front of me. So Donovan Edwards, the running back from Michigan, someone who like at times looked really, really good, just such a powerful back. Athleticism question marks, but back in 2022, he averaged over 7 yards a carry. And granted, it was a stacked team and Jim Harbaugh was the coach and whatnot, but still, to scoop him up as an undrafted free agent, I'm excited to see what he can maybe do. Maybe he's stashed on the practice squad for a year. And then when Breece's time is up, everyone just kind of slots up a spot. Yep. Braylon Allen takes over as the lead guy, Isaiah Davis, and then maybe Donovan Edwards. That seems realistic to me. One name I'm really actually pretty interested in is Jamarcus Weston from Florida. Yeah. So he's literally one of the best special teams players in the entire country, 6'3", 215. He's played wide receiver, safety, linebacker, and edge, and he's never really found a role. But in special teams, his pro comparison was Matt Slater from the Patriots.
There you go.
Just like the gunner, great job on special teams. And Florida, there was actually this huge article that was released on it, like how impactful he was on special teams. Supposedly had a ton of interest from all these sorts of NFL teams. Reason why I went undrafted is because he doesn't really have that solidified position just on special teams. But yeah, literally one of the best gunners in the country, if not the best. And then Peyton Page, the defensive tackle from Clemson, who was this huge recruit coming out of high school, goes to Clemson, kind of stashed behind, a lot of NFL talent with the Clemson defensive line, like Brian Bresee and whatnot. Never really played his first 3 years all that much, but when he did play this past season, he was named team captain, has good size, has good quickness, and overall was a pretty good player. But the big knock on him was lack of experience and lack of production because he just, 1 year essentially starting. So, and there was also maybe some weight concerns as well, like the team like having to keep him or trying to keep weight off, and not get too heavy for the position. But for a team that needs like a big run stuffing defensive tackle, he has that body type, and we didn't have to spend a draft pick on him. So pretty interested.
So overall, between the undrafted free agents and the draft class in general, you feel like the Jets got a good lot of talent to bring into, mini camps and training camp. Like, oh, listen, a lot of competition, a lot of athletes. But to me, it's like there's still some opportunity, I think, in free agents, veteran free agents that are out there. I know you did a video today on that, on guys you like. Talk about that, like some of the holes you think we have and some guys we could add to maybe address them.
Well, I'm curious on your thoughts. Are there any free agents that you're maybe thinking?
Man, you know me, dude. I'm about the wide receiver bothers me a lot. It does. And I've like everybody else has been saying, you're one Garrett Wilson injury away from being a little bit nervous about things because you don't have a lot of faith in Allen Lazard. Josh Reynolds, you know what he is. Malachi Corley, completely unproven. Like, we all know the names. It's like, Mason Taylor helps. He's a rookie. So if you bring another veteran, but you have like everybody wants Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper. I wanted Tyler Lockett. He went to the Titans. But the question I have is for these free agents that are out there now, a lot of them probably wanted to wait till the draft was over to say, okay, listen, let these teams draft first, identify who they have, and I can make my best choice. Are the Jets a offense that you want to play in where you can get your numbers and get the value that you think you can get. And I'm not sure that's the case. You know, like, do you want to play in a revamped offense that's it's finding its way with Justin Fields, or go to, you know, the Dallas Cowboys? Like, you know, like it's like, are the Jets a good fit for these guys, for these veteran guys to even come here? Would they want to come here?
Yeah, that's really the big question. I mean, some of the available guys, that's the list that I'm looking at now. Let me just kind of rattle off some names, and you tell me if there's any like needle movers in your opinion. So we got Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, DJ Chark, Nelson Aguilar, former Jet Elijah Moore, who actually just visited with the Bills, if I'm not mistaken. Chris Conley, Jamison Crowder, Tyler Boyd, Allen Robinson.
Tyler Boyd's fell off, man, didn't he? Oh, Fallon, this guy, dude, this is your friend again. Fallon, what are you doing, bro?
Oh, dude, Fallon's a beast. Fallon is an absolute beast, man. One of the nicest guys I've.
And he's hanging out in Vegas now. Well, good luck if you're gambling. Good luck, man. I hope you win big. You deserve it. Thank you so much, man. You're just crazy. That's wild.
He's crazy, man. He's crazy.
He's just nuts.
Fallon, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I saw Elijah Moore going to the Bills. I don't think he's coming back. But like, of the guys you mentioned, which ones do you think would be a good fit that would be realistic?
You know, to be honest, like, I just don't really know if, you know, like, I don't think one like jumps the roster.
No.
You know, I mean, you can Armand, you can argue like a DJ Chark or like an Allen Robinson, but I think Josh Reynolds kind of fits that role, you know.
Cook. Now, here's a question for you. The Green Bay Packers had an excellent draft, but they stocked up their wide receiver room. Do you make a call to the Packers? Do you make a call to another team that after the draft may have a surplus of wide receivers? Do you get aggressive that way?
It's worth a shot, dude. It's definitely worth a shot. And we've seen Aaron Glenn take, or maybe have like more of an opinion on the NFC North guys. Like, that was the whole argument with Justin Fields. Like, you know, Glenn has watched and coached against Justin Fields for a while. Alan Lazard, right? Aaron Glenn watched him with the Green Bay Packers early on, or in that Glenn's first season there. What was that? 2020, I believe. Anyway, they're like, you can definitely make that argument. So Green Bay's an interesting choice, like when you're thinking of like a Romeo Doubs or someone that could potentially be on the move. But, you know, I'm trying to think of like an exact situation where there's a team. I'll do some thinking on it tonight. I'll run through all these different rosters, but, you know, who's going to be that one available wide receiver that fits what the Jets want to do offensively, but at the same time isn't going to be, you know, clamoring for, because like one name I see all the time is Chris Olave. But the problem with Olave is him and Garrett Wilson were drafted in the same year. So you could be going from paying not a whole lot at wide receiver to paying 45-50 million to two receivers in one off season. So, which is a freaking huge jump, dude. To all of a sudden like look down at your cap and say like, oh, you know, we have, you know, whatever, 70 million in cap space. No, we don't, because 40 of it is going to two receivers now. You know, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. I got to do some research on who maybe would fit the best. I've seen some like Romeo Doubs stuff, but you know, I think he was actually suspended by the team, so I'm not really sure what that whole situation was about. But I was trying to. It's interesting.
I was trying to find teams that could be like, you know, a June cut, a team that's got a surplus of guys, like, you know, just any, like, I'm trying to find, you know, options here. So for me, it was wide receivers one, defensive tackle, like defensive line. I'm kind of hoping they could find. There's a couple free agents out there as well. I know you mentioned a couple of them. That would be interesting because you need that run stuff. And I think that was a universal feeling by a lot of Jet fans coming out of draft. Like, we still didn't address it. We couldn't stop the run last year. And my first response is, this is a whole new defense with a whole new scheme that they're going to make adjustments anyway. Different players already on the roster now than last year, but I still get that feeling as well where, like, I wouldn't mind one big piece in the middle.
Definitely, dude. You know, I still feel like we're kind of missing that big run stuffer. One interesting option is Raekwon Davis from the Colts. He's never really done like going back to last season, there was not really that one, you know, big time moment where the Colts are like, oh my God, like we got to pay this guy, you know, a big deal or anything. He's actually released from the Colts. But huge body type, like 6'7", 325, 330. Dude is huge. And if you just, I'm thinking like, okay, cheap 1 year deal. If Glenn, you know, we have Q, We have Leonard Taylor as kind of like the pass rushing D tackles.
Yep.
If we want to rotate Raekwon Davis and maybe Derek Nottie and just kind of, or even like throw someone else in, into the mix too, have like a 3-man kind of run stuffing D tackle. It'll take pressure off all 3 of them.
Yeah, it could be like a 2-down player. We don't need that guy has to play all 3 downs. They're like, have like almost like a specialist. Like this is when he comes in, you know exactly what he's doing, and you have your rotation. It wouldn't bother me at all. I think it seemed like it's a pretty big need. The other need, which we kind of mentioned earlier on, was the safety position seems to be still in flux. You have the draft picks, you have Tony Adams, Cisco, we know, but it seems like you still need those safety. And just like last year, there's a ton of them out there. They seem like there's still like legitimate talent out there that the Jets maybe wanted to wait to see the get compensatory picks and whatever else. But are there any safeties that you could see would fit right now?
Julian Blackman from the Colts, but like, I'm trying to think of like other guys like Justin Simmons and stuff. I like some of the older safeties. I just feel like, maybe would just be better fit for like a team like the Chiefs or the Bills or, like those teams that are gunning for a Super Bowl, as opposed to, a team like kind of in that first phase of the rebuild.
All right, we got a Jolt Music. Thank you, Jolt. Very workmanlike draft strategy. Reminds you of the Lions 2021 draft with Sewell. No guarantees, but Glenn's no-nonsense approach is a nice change of pace from the circus under J.D. Sala and Rodgers. Completely agree with that. And thank you, Jolt. We appreciate it, but I completely agree, dude. You like that blue-collar approach. You like the blue-collar mindset. I like the no-nonsense. I like the discipline and the accountability and like work in silence. After all the chaos the last 2 years, this is welcome, dude. I think the players are probably embracing it too. They're probably being in all the all the headlines and like the disappointment, all the backlash. It's like, all right, let's just work hard and just surprise everybody. Let's be a surprise. Let's just shock everybody by coming out playing great football and winning football games. And I respect it. I like it. You just got to do it,
Yeah, 100%, bro. I totally agree with Jolt. I think having that sort of, keep your head down, that humble type of mindset is really, really important, especially if you're building a young team.
Yep. And this is a good point. We talked about this last night a little bit is, last year the Jets had like 3 undrafted free agents that all had an impact. Watts, McGregor, Leonard Taylor. Leonard Taylor actually showed some things. And I'm curious if the Jets think, with their coaching and their insight, they can maybe get something out of these guys that we don't expect. Like they inherited a lot of guys that didn't get a lot of opportunities or were poorly coached or whatever else. Maybe some of these defensive guys can surprise us, man.
That'll be sweet, man. I'll take it. Leonard Taylor, bro. That was another guy that should have been drafted. Like he was literally being mocked in the 4th round back in that draft, but falls out of the draft. And I felt like at times he flashed, at times, he looked pretty impressive. But when I'm thinking about Leonard Taylor, I think of like someone to really put heat on the quarterback. Not like this, like I'm not going to take a Leonard Taylor and just, slam him on the, inside of the D line and just say like, okay, your sole priority is just to clog lanes and like try to, take on 2 offensive linemen at once. I think Leonard Taylor, if you have a Quinnen injury or when Quinnen steps out, then you plug Leonard Taylor in, fresh legs.
Yeah. So now you have, so we talked about, potential holes. You have wide receiver, you look at safety, defensive tackle. Is there anything else, like a kind of like a thing that you're like, all right, I like the roster, but maybe this here can get a little more help?
I think maybe trading for one more wide receiver, but what are you going to trade? Like a 2026 draft pick? Like that, that's, now the position that you're in, it's a good, like I said, dude, I'm going to take a look at some of these rosters and try to figure out maybe if there's going to be an odd man out. But I think it's tough to find, again, a player that fits the offense the Jets would have room for that fits kind of like the Aaron Glenn type of mindset of what we were just talking about, like that humble, working hard type of approach. That also that team is fine letting them leave. And at the same time, us not having to pay a whole lot.
Yep. I think also now I think what the Jets may want to do too is get everybody into mini camps, get them into the early part of training camp and start evaluating, okay, this is what we think you are. Now we see what you are. And now we got to make a change. Now we got to maybe make a trade, cut, like start scouring wards. I think like this roster is like a work in progress, man. They get, now they're just inheriting a lot and trying to identify things. You got to see them in pads hitting each other. And then you can make adjustments like, all right, we think Stone Smart's going to be this. He's not really that. We need tight end help or however it goes. So I think it could be, a little bit of time before they make a move. But do you think they'll make a move in terms of re-signing, extending somebody? Sauce, Garrett, maybe Quincy. Like Muji mentioned that in press conference. Like, after the draft, we'll think about new contracts. Do you see something happening now between now and training camp?
Yeah, I don't think something happens now. If I had to take a guess, I would probably say Glenn, just a straight assumption, Glenn would probably want to work and see what the work ethic is with certain guys before, handing out a huge deal and committing to them long term. Just my guess. Really, you can make that argument for everyone, right? Kellen Moore with the Saints. I think he should have that approach with Olave, right? I'm not going to pay him, and I didn't draft him. I haven't coached him. I haven't seen him work in practice. I haven't seen him in the meeting rooms or, in game preparation or anything like that. I want to get my hands on him first, see how it goes.
Yeah.
And then if if I feel good about the process, then that big contract is awarded to the player. But I don't know. It's tough because these guys are really, really good. But at the end of the day, Glenn did not draft them. So if they want to wait, I am fine with it. When I look at the rest of the NFL, and if I'm fine with, Gladstone with Jacksonville wanting to maybe pause, like maybe he's not jumping the gun to pay Travon Walker or something, and he's just like, hey, I didn't draft him. I kind of want to see and hear how he works first. Okay, as a non-Jag fan, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So with the Jets, I kind of have to keep that same sort of mindset.
Yeah, I agree with the mindset. I think maybe if it happens, it probably happens in June after like the mini camps, stuff like that. But also when Aaron Glenn was very outspoken, like we want to keep our good young talent. When you say that kind of stuff, you actually got to do that. Now they re-signed Sherwood, which is great, love the move, but it kind of puts a little bit kind of a spotlight back on them. Like, all right, you talked about it. You have two potential Pro Bowlers in Sauce and Garrett. So it's interesting to see how he handles it. Now, looking at this roster on paper, April 29th, what is your level of expectation for this team? Like, they a lot of change, new coaching staff, new quarterback, better offensive line. You can kind of see the vision. Do you think you expect them to be competitive where they, 6-7 wins isn't outlandish, maybe a little bit more? Or do you still think this is a lower team than that they have to kind of surprise us to get to that 8-win level?
Maybe a little bit of both. When I'm thinking about the Jets, and to be fair, we don't know the schedule.
Right.
So we don't know, 3 games, 10 days, any of that sort of stuff. Away, home, like we know our opponents, but is there a stretch where, November rolls around or December rolls around and we're playing in domes, right?
Yeah.
Or is it maybe 4 out of 5 matchups are away games in December, just stuff like that. Like I'm curious to kind of see, but just my initial expectations are probably some clunkers early as they're working at the kinks. There's probably going to be moments where Glenn wastes a timeout or they screw up a challenge or they're having a hard time getting the play in from Tanner Engstrand, right? Because they're all first year, guys doing these things. So that would just be my one thing that I feel like needs to be said. Like early on, let's not kill them if we see some mistakes that we saw in the Saleh era. The difference, Saleh was making rookie mistakes in year 4.
It's true.
Jeff Ulbrich it just seemed like he was clueless.
Yep.
In-game management. By the way, I did see that the Jets hired a game manager on their coaching staff, which is pretty cool. I was on their team website today. But I think one thing too, players, I do feel like there might be some more buy-in from players because there's so many former players on the staff.
Yep.
Like Dre Bly's on the staff. Obviously, Aaron Glenn has done his thing, but no, I think from top to bottom, maybe some clunkers early on, maybe some mistakes, some tough losses, but a shock or two. And then as the season goes on, you're kind of looking for just more consistency and a team that they fight, they scratch, they claw, and they're hanging in games. Maybe they get a couple victories, maybe they don't win on the come out victorious at the end of the game, but they fought the entire time. And you're just like, man, if we just had that one extra receiver, if we just could block a little bit longer, if Fields could have just delivered that pass, we would have won the game. I feel like there's going to be a lot of those games. So I'm thinking 6-7 wins for the Jets this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it could start off rough a little early on, whole new scheme, whole new quarterback. There's gonna be some growing pains, but you want to see them be well coached. You want to see them be disciplined, and you want to see them improve as the season plays out. Because while they're improving, they're also identifying all their holes to address next year. Like right now, they're trying to gather information: who's good, who's not good, who fits, who doesn't fit. Identify what their scheme is, and then say, okay, now as the season plays out, we know what we have now. We know where we need to improve. But while you're doing that, be very competitive. No more of these no-show West Coast games, like the games where they're getting blown out by halftime. They're not making adjustments. Like you can tell, like I always tell Kevin this, where it's like we've seen so much poor coaching and such bad efforts. We know it right off the bat when we see it. Like you can tell when a team's not prepared or they're being thoroughly outcoached and not competing. They're just way in over their head. By midseason, we want to start seeing, all right, this team knows what they're doing. They're just a little bit lacking a little bit of talent. They need a little bit more of this, but that's kind of where I'm at. And to me, like 6-7 wins isn't outlandish because that's being just a competitive team running the football, play physical, play nasty, have good special teams, have good defense. You'll be in games, dude. Like the NFL is like that every year, and teams surprise every year. Why can't it be the Jets? Because they're not like when Saleh and Douglas were here, they inherited a bad roster. They're also bad at their jobs. Like now there is talent here, not Sauce, Garrett, all these guys. There's legitimate talent here. Quinnen, Quincy. They should be able to compete and win games, man. Not saying go 12-5, but you can't mail in the season. But you know what? This is a 3-win tank season. No way. You're not getting away with that this year.
Well, it sounded like your kind of description of what you're kind of thinking, what you're hoping for, sounds a lot like the Detroit Lions when Dan Campbell was first hired, right? They're losing almost freaking every week, but you look at the score, you're like watching the games, you're watching even highlights. And the other team, the Bills, the Packers, they have to go on a 2-minute drive to win.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, this team is 0-9. Like, what the hell's going on here? Why is it this hard to beat a team like that? It's because they scratch, they claw, and they're competing, playing whistle to whistle, down to down, quarter to quarter. So that is something that just was not there during these past couple of years. Just that like that fighting sort of mentality, like, hey, we're not out of it. Like, let's just keep going. Let's keep going. I felt like in the first 2 years of Saleh, it was a little bit like that on the defensive side of the football. But once Rodgers came in, that it just felt like people were checked out.
Yeah. And I also think, too, it's like, when this kind of approach that this coaching staff has, I think the buy-in is going to be there because they know it's like a no-nonsense approach. Like, all right, we're going to have to work hard because if not, we're not going to play. I think that's they realize that now. And they're, it's like work in silence. And they realize, like, every job's up for grabs. We're going to have to earn, compete, and make it. And if not, so I think that's going to help initially, but the results will help more if they win games. Like, it's tough. It's good to be a hard-nosed coach, but if you're not getting the results, then your team's looking at you like, hey, man, like, we're, you're killing us in these practices. We're doing all this stuff, but we're not, so you got to hope the results match the effort. But I think it will. I just have a really good feeling about it, dude. I think there's enough talent here to compete. And then, you get a couple lucky bounces, who knows? And you never know where you get Justin Fields. A lot of people want to write him off, but they're putting him in a pretty good position right now, especially if you add one more receiver where he's going to have a great offensive line, good running backs behind him. Hopefully the tight end works out. Like, now, the one thing I wanted to ask you is, are you comfortable with the tight end just being Mason Taylor, Stone Smart, and Ruckert? Are you cool with that? Or would you say, hey, you know what? Do we want to get greedy and maybe go for a Goddard or go for a Mayer or somebody like, do you still want to get aggressive there instead of going for the wide receiver?
Yeah, I definitely want to add at least one more vet tight end. And I was actually talking about it in that video today. The tight end room right now kind of reminds me of, the quarterback room a couple years ago when Zach was brought in, because it's like you have Zach Wilson, who was drafted high, and it's like, you're the guy, you're number one quarterback on the roster. Exactly. Here you go. Young first-year OC, learning his way, not much veteran experience in the room. It wasn't until a month in a week into the season where the Jets had to trade a draft pick for Joe Flacco, and they could have just signed him initially. But yeah, I think it would be important to go get like a Jordan Atkins, right? 1 year deal, 1 year, $3 million or something like that. 33-year-old tight end, Houston Texans, Cleveland Browns. And I think it would also take some of the pressure off of the blocking duties for Mason Taylor as well.
Yeah, good point. That's really
good point. I don't want Mason Taylor with all these high expectations, second round pick. Justin Fields likes to target the tight end. Jets have been starved for a tight end forever. We need you to go out and get, 60 catches as a tight end and also be this outstanding blocker too, like in the running game. It's just too much. Like, let's go, supplement some of that, some of those duties with a veteran, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree with you. I'm excited, man. Like I said, like now it's like you wish training camp was tomorrow, but now you have to go through mini camp. Then you also go a couple non-Jets draft questions for you because and we talked about this already, but I'm just curious to pick your mind anyway.
Mhm.
But were you surprised about Jackson Dart, the Giants going back up and getting Jackson Dart?
It's not something I would have done, but I mean, the talk before the draft was he's going to go round 1, and he did. So we'll see what happens with it. But I don't like what the position that the Giants are in. Like you can look at some of their moves, and it's just like, oh, like for example, like Darius Alexander and stuff, Abdul Carter if he's healthy. Like they drafted some impactful pieces, but the reality is the Giants, if the Giants start 0-7 or 2-8 or something like that, these guys are fired, and then the next regime has to like Jackson Dart, and if he doesn't, then you're just picking, a quarterback next year. So
It's almost
I don't know.
It's almost like they got like an assurance from the owner. If they pick a young quarterback, they'll have a chance to groom him. Like everybody's saying, Dable's on the hot seat. When you let a team trade up to the first round to get a quarterback that you want to develop, and you already have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, it's almost like Dable's getting another year. Like right? Like because you got to give the front office confidence to actually make the trade without having repercussions. Like, listen, man, we got the kid, but we have Russell Wilson. He can't play till next year or until the end of the season. We don't know where he's going to be until 2026. Can we be here to see that through? They may have already gotten assurances for that, dude.
I mean, the Giants just keep on getting worse.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. Now, what about the Cleveland Browns? What were your thoughts on going Dylan Gabriel, then Shedeur? That seemed like that was I understand the value of Shedeur at that point, but that quarterback room's a fiasco. You got Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel. Almost seems like the owner said, get me like Shedeur, like, right? It doesn't make any sense.
See, I feel like the Browns aced the draft. Like when I'm looking at like what Cleveland did, right? 3-win football team in a great division with no quarterback. What do? They first off acquired a first round pick next year. So you got 2 first round picks. You didn't trade up with the Chiefs, Lions, Eagles, Bills, Ravens, not a team like that. You trade with the Jaguars. There's a chance that the Jags could have a top 10 pick again. Mm-hmm. So that's a really, really valuable pick. So that's right off the bat, before they made anything, they picked up an extra 1. They go out and they get Mason Graham, high floor D tackle, pass rusher on the inside to help out Myles Garrett. Good fit in the Jim Schwartz defense. Love that, right? Huge boost there. You come back in round 2, you get Carson Schwarzenegger, who I really like, just a high motor, big time player, someone who didn't really have like a lot of experience at UCLA, but when he really got in there this past season, he was making plays. He was flying around the football field. Everyone's kind of like looking at him like, okay, he's like a small little linebacker, 220-ish pounds. He weighs into the combine over 245. So he weighed in at an extra 20 at a 20 pound, or he was 20 pounds heavier at the combine and put up great combine numbers. And everyone initially thought 220. So that's why we saw like his stock shoot up. Because like, whoa, he's not just some, little thin guy who's just going to get trucked over at the next level. No, this guy can actually hang with like, the bigger power guys in the league. Quinshon Judkins is one of my favorite running backs in college football. So they added this bruising power back who I'm really excited to see. Just really feels like a Cleveland Brown. You get Dylan Gabriel, where I don't really think Gabriel has that big of an upside, but I think he does have a pretty high floor. As like at worst, he's going to be a solid backup. Right. He's not the biggest student in the world, but he does have a good arm, smart guy, played in a lot of games, like tons of college experience, tons of college starts in multiple systems and whatnot. And then Shedeur falls to you in round 5. So it's like, if I'm the Browns, it's like you don't have a quarterback. You're paying Deshaun Watson 40+ mil. Flacco is not the long-term answer. Kenny Pickett might be, but probably isn't. We're essentially rolling the dice 2 times. We didn't do it in the first. We didn't do it in the second. Yeah, we, spent the 3rd round pick on a guy, but, those 2 guys are going to push each other. Like if you put yourself in Sanders' shoes, he's probably pissed that he fell to round 5. Yeah, like, you know what? I'm showing everyone. I should have been the 2nd pick in this draft. I'm here anyway, but I'm going to prove to everyone why I should be here. And they drafted Dylan Gabriel ahead of me. So I got to go out and beat this guy too. Put yourself in Gabriel's shoes. I thought it was like a shoo-in. Like, I'm going to be the developmental guy. But Sanders is picked in round 5.
There's only so many reps, dude. There's only so many reps in practice. You have 5 quarterbacks. Like how many?
Right,
Like
so I think that elevates Watson is irrelevant.
I'm
He's
saying you got 4 quarterbacks. You still got Pickett, Gabriel, Shador. I mean, it's like you only have so many practice reps, dude. Like it's just I don't
yeah,
know,
but if you don't have a quarterback, it's 2 swings, 1 mid round, 1 late round, and both guys are going to be motivated. Gabriel's probably thinking like, you guys just took Shador, like I'm going to come in and be on my stuff. So now I think it's kind of, what's that quote? A rising tide raises all ships. Like
Yeah.
Sanders and Gabriel just going to be at each other's throat. You got Flacco, kind of the reliable vet who, is I would assume is going to be the backup of the team. If he starts the year off, but he's not going to be like the guy for 17 games. And then Pickett's the wild card, so they're probably going to have to move off of one.
Yeah, but
And
it's
then
like to me, it's like I'm kind of with Jolt on this one. First of all, Jolt, thank you again, man. Browns will be a circus. Get your popcorn. The QB room is going to be a zoo. Some franchises can handle the heat. Browns aren't one of them. Especially, just say it's not like Kenny Pickett's 35 years old, or say Kenny Pickett's your guy. Just in theory, he has one off game, dude. Bring in Shador. We want Shador. Dylan Gabriel's your guy. He plays well. You can't like him. One off game. It's like there's that name in your locker room on your bench is going to cause chaos because they're just like, hey, because like in the Browns fans' eye, like he's number 2 pick. He should be in their top 5 pick in the draft. He's here. Put him out there. We want to see. We don't care about Pickett. We don't care about Gabriel. It's like you completely overpowered your quarterback room with this kid, assuming he shows up and competes.
Yeah, but for a team that has a lot of pressure on them coming off a 3-win year with no quarterback option, you have the chance to get QB2 in the draft in round 5. You got to pull the trigger.
Yeah, no,
Because if Sanders doesn't work and Gabriel doesn't work and Flacco doesn't work and Pickett doesn't work, they all are horrible. Well, you have 2 first-round picks next year to go out and make a move. And you've also increased the floor with adding the great running back in Judkins and getting the linebacker in Carson and, Mason Graham at spot number 5. So I think the Browns are much better today than they were before the draft. Address offense, defense, and, for a team that has no quarterback options, you're now rolling the dice on 2 low-risk options in Gabriel and Sanders, while also giving yourself a chance in the future to maybe even trade up to that number 1 spot with 2 potential top 15 picks.
I understand what you're saying. I just think it's going to be a complete chaos there. Now, before we wrap this up, quick thoughts on the AFC East teams in the draft. I thought, to me, like I like the Bills and the Patriots, to be honest with you. What are your thoughts on the Patriots draft? I think they did really well.
They did great, dude. They did great. I feel like TreVeyon Henderson is just going to be one of those players that, fans are really going to gravitate towards. Fantasy type of player, 3 down back, can run, can catch, going to be productive for sure. We know Mike. We know Mike Vrabel wants to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
We know Josh McDaniels really likes to utilize the running backs in the pass game. I just see him getting a lot of volume. Wasn't really the biggest Will Campbell fan, but if he does work out, he's probably better than what they had last year at left tackle. And, Braden Swinson round 5, I felt like was a huge steal for them. Like great system fit, big upside with Swinson. And then, Kyle Williams, like you said, man, kind of feels like a Patriot type of player, can create separation. So, getting Drake May a weapon. I think the Patriots had a really good draft.
Yeah, they're doing a pretty good job of getting weapons around Drake May. Now, what'd you think about Buffalo? Hey, Brandon Beane's awesome, man. When he went against the reporters talking about the offense, which was great. I love that. I love that fight when he pushed back the mock drafters like that. Like, listen, we led the league in scoring last year. We scored the points. Like our defense is the problem. I love him saying that. But what were your thoughts about their draft? Yeah,
Dude, once again, the Bills somehow find a way to get it. Like another great draft. Like Landon Jackson. I think he's going to be a force, dude. Like he's just such a physical freak. One thing about Landon was like, so he played at Arkansas. He got like the better competition that he played against, the better he played.
Yeah.
So it's not like one of those, the common sense. Okay, if you're playing against a better tackle, you're getting worse, or your stats aren't there. No, the better the competition, the better Landon played, which I thought was really interesting. Big time motor as well. By the way, underrated storyline. A lot of people are complaining about the Jets not drafting a defensive tackle. The Bills jumped the Jets, I believe, 2 times to select defensive tackles.
Bingo. Yep.
I wonder if the Bills maybe knew that the Jets were thinking D tackle. We got to jump the Jets for one.
Yep.
But yeah, Harrison, I think, is going to start at corner on the outside. who is their pick in the TJ Sanders, who's like a disruptive like pass rushing D tackle who I originally had mocked to the Jets at 42 a couple months ago. Someone who I really, really like. And then they came back in round 4 and they got Deion Walker, who's like this 6'7" boom or bust style of guy. Like in some areas, he's like amazing, first round worthy. In some areas, he's like undraftable. Which so, kind of funny. He falls right in the middle of the draft. But if the Bills, a team that really maximizes their defensive linemen or their defensive linemen's talents, I think they're, they added 2 defensive tackles. They signed 2 defensive tackles who are both going to be suspended. I just feel like there's going to be this huge rotation. Throw on top of it, they already have Ed Oliver, one of the game's best. So the Buffalo Bills, man, I really think that this team is going to be in the Super Bowl next year. Like they are freaking loaded, dude. And then not to mention their free agent acquisitions, Josh Palmer, who a lot of Jets fans wanted. So he's going to help out Josh Allen in some facet. Joey Bosa, I would honestly look at Bosa as like a relief pitcher. If I'm Sean McDermott, I might only play Bosa in like the second half of games.
100%.
I don't want this guy getting hurt.
100%.
Yeah, dude, I think they could probably use one safety, but I don't know, man. I really look at Buffalo as like this team is going to be freaking good next year.
And what do you think about Zach Wilson and his Miami Dolphins? How the Dolphins do in their draft?
Well, with Quinn Ewers and the Miami Dolphins? There you go.
Come on, man. Zach and his number 0, man. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. So I was actually a big fan of the Kenneth Grant pick because the Dolphins run a similar defense of, to the Ravens, right? Like the 3-4, so you need to have that like big time anchor, like right up the middle of the defense. Nose tackle. Kenneth Grant's going to be that guy. Big athletic freak show. I was, really, really high on Kenneth Grant, even though Kenneth Grant going 13 was pretty shocking. And then they got Savanya in round 2, in which they traded up for. So on one hand, it's like plug and play left guard, huge position of need, great.
Yeah.
But you traded up, a decent amount of stuff to go out and get him. Quinn Ewers later on. I thought the Dolphins probably had my least favorite draft out of the 4, but I don't know. It kind of the Dolphins are such a weird team for me. Like, are they rebuilding or are they win now? Are they somewhere in between in like that purgatory 7 to 8 win mark? I don't know. It just feels like the Dolphins right now are kind of directionless.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a really well said. You don't know what they are. They're kind of like no identity. Are they like are they going to trade Tyreek Hill? Is he going to stay there? Like, what are you doing with him? Like, they really don't know what they're doing. So it's interesting. If you had
sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no, you got it.
No, it's like, if the Dolphins get set, let me ask you, if you are the Dolphins owner and the Dolphins keep their veteran, maybe they get rid of Ramsey and they keep Tyreek Hill and they get 8 wins next year. Are you firing? Are you cleaning house? Or are you saying we're still kind of close?
I mean, at what point are they completely underachieving? Like they have all these, they spent all this money, they have all these resources, they're not getting the results they want. Like at what point do you say, you know what? We may need a different voice here because we're not getting the results that we're looking for.
But then who's jumping to the top of your list? Like as like an upgrade over Mike McDaniel, 100% for sure.
Well, that's
and then from there, are you rebuild or are you win now?
Yeah, but you got to figure
John Gruden or
but you could figure. Well, John Gruden's going to be back in the mix soon because now he's all over the place now with the NFL. So you can figure he's going to be back. Also, Mike Tomlin has a rough year in Pittsburgh. Things don't work out. Aaron Rodgers, he could be finally on his way out of there. He can there's a lot of names that every year. Like a veteran head coach, Mike McCarthy, sitting out a year. You never know what they're going to do with him. Like,
oh yeah, that's a good one. There's
a lot of names out there that you never know. Where you can say, listen, we have a team that's ready to win. We need a coach that can get us there. John Gruden would be perfect for them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury is going to be available.
Gruden would they pay the money. They definitely pay for him. They don't care about that. So
yeah, yep.
So it's interesting, man. No, it's. I'm glad the draft is over because now we can start digesting more. Like, what is our roster? How are they going to coach them up? Who like any little last minute tinkering. Then get the training camp. That's the whole thing. Like, just stay healthy now. Like, no injuries and workouts and all this other stuff, and see what happens. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see.
Good about this. It's just I don't understand. So let's jump ship now because these idiots are saying Bills are Super Bowl bound. Bro, it's called you're doing analysis. You're analyzing the division, what's going there. The Bills have been dominant year in, year out. That's what they are. The Jets aren't going to be better than them this year. It's just a fact. Like, it's like, should we fanboys? Oh, the Jets are going to go 15-2. Bills are going to go 9-8. And that's the way it is. Come on, man. It's called analysis.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird, man, because like I felt like the Bills last year, they took like one small step back to go, to make two steps forward. But in that step backwards, they still were freaking dominant, and they made it that far. So
yeah, they're like a well-run machine at this point. They're like the Chiefs. They're just well-run. It's a good organization from top to bottom. So last question: favorite pick in the entire draft? Doesn't matter what team it is.
Favorite pick in the entire draft, dude.
You have one pick you like. I love it.
Should I say Sanders in round 5?
That's what you're gonna say.
Yeah. So outside of Sanders, I'm gonna say I'll say Donovan Ezraku for the Cowboys in round 2. I thought that was sweet. You have like this technically sound pass rusher, ultra production, comes in and is not going to be like the day one number one edge. He's going to get like favorable matchups with Micah Parsons. I think that's going to be sweet. Also, Kevin Winston for the Titans in I believe round 3.
You wanted him bad. I remember that.
Yeah, dude, you look at the Titans. Yeah. A.O. Manor got drafted by Tennessee too. Like, you look at the Titans draft, like they really did a good job, man.
Yeah, they did. Texans loading up. It was interesting to see like how the teams are dealing with young quarterbacks. The Chicago Bears, the Texans, all these teams are putting a lot of talent around their quarterbacks. Patriots. It was interesting to see, man.
Yeah. What was your number one or your favorite pick?
To be honest with you, I love the Jaguars getting Travis Hunter. I do. I just think that was awesome. It's a bold statement for the organization where they're trying to change, they're trying to change the perception of their team. They went aggressive. They were I loved it, dude. I was surprised by it, but I think it's like they need impact players like that, man. And it instantly helps Trevor Lawrence, which he needs. He needs those playmakers because there's questions about Trevor Lawrence. They don't know what he is. They think he's good, but is he good? Is he not? Give him playmakers and see if he can flourish. If not, you got to move on from him, right? So I thought that was great for them, dude. And that GM's kind of feisty too, man. He's got some like good quotes to him. Yeah,
and the Jags also need a corner too. So I think Travis Hunter is definitely going to be playing both sides. Yeah.
I just think for an organization like that, you need that superstar, that leader, that flash, and they got it. And I just want to see not that I want to see Trevor do well, but you want to at least see him, give him a chance to compete and showcase his skills. So that was a good pick for them.
Yeah, no. I wonder, I don't have the Jags draft off of memory. I wonder, I'm trying to think if they got a defensive tackle. Let me look real quick. Okay, so Travis Hunter, Caleb Branshaw, Tulane, Wyatt Millum. That was a good pick in round 3 out of West Virginia. Tootin from Virginia Tech, Kaiser, Notre Dame.
I like that pick.
Yeah, so no they got 2 running backs, a wide receiver, a guard, and then you get Travis Hunter doing both. So Jacksonville really bolstered the offensive side of the football, in my opinion.
Which is smart. I mean, that's what you got to do, though. You got to clean up. You clean up and let this kid, score points. That's what sells tickets. That's wins games at this point in the NFL. Especially when you look at the AFC, man. The AFC's got a lot of high flying offenses, man. You got to keep up.
Yeah. Yep, so. Dude. And even like the quote unquote bad teams, Titans.
Yep.
Cam Ward, what's he going to look like? Jaguars, right? Top 5 pick. What's he going to look like? Yep. What happens with the Cleveland Browns? All of these teams that like aren't good record wise. New England Patriots, right? Number 4. They're all projecting up. The only one that's like a little questionable in the AFC that I feel like might be trending downwards is, or I guess maybe the 2 teams. Miami Dolphins and the Colts.
The Colts are a weird team right now. They're just
and Steelers too, man. I like the Steelers draft a lot, but if they get Rodgers, I'm not really.
That's what they're getting. Just a matter of time now. The countdown is on.
Dude, if I'm the Steelers, man, I'm trading for Kirk Cousins instead.
I told you that a month ago. You told me I was crazy.
That was before the draft. Now the draft is over with. So they had their chance. Sanders was there at 21.
All right. Well, I don't know how the hell this has been an hour and 15 minutes. That's just crazy. This one flew by. So
yeah, dude, it was a lot of fun.
So first of all, thank you guys for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. We try to do every Tuesday at 7:00, but our schedules have been wacky, so we've been bouncing around. And then now that the draft's over, we can start doing call-in shows, man. Maybe the next couple shows we'll take calls. You do your first call with us and see how it works out.
Yeah, dude, I'm down.
Cool. So we appreciate it. Again, next week will be on his channel, 7:00, and that's it. Thank you and dude, great job with your draft coverage, dude. Literally, I was like, every time you posted a video, I'm like, when is this kid gonna sleep? Because you're cranking out undrafted guys, this guy, analysis. It was just like, whew.
Yeah, dude, it's my favorite time of the year. So I really love making these types of videos.
So when you get a job with an NFL team, just don't forget us little people, man. Just give me a ticket.
Chill.
Just give me I want a ticket, like a field pass or something. That's all I want.
That'd be crazy, man. That'd be crazy. I mean, yeah, just chill on that.
Thank you guys for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.